Shalom and welcome to Inside Israel News, your source for unbiased and thorough analysis of Israeli news, politics, and current events in the Middle East. I'm your host, Mensch-Kight. Welcome back to Inside Israel News. It's been a fascinating week with all kinds of fun that I'll be going into shortly. First things first, though, special thanks to listener Daniel. Daniel is Israeli, and he likes to listen in English, and he says that the analysis you receive here is better than the Israeli news. He has access to all of the Israeli news, the left, the right, all of their various news outlets, and he prefers to come here because he likes the way the information is presented here, and he thinks the analysis is better. So thank you, Daniel. All right. Well, we've got this week Iran deal negotiations coming up, an attempted coup in Jordan, maybe. We'll be talking about that here in just a second. And, of course, Israeli politics in full gear. Coalition talks are already afoot, and the candidate who will have the first go at forming a coalition will be decided literally tomorrow. And while I could record an episode tomorrow with that headline in mind, it might be more interesting to record it tonight, discuss the different possibilities, and of course, tomorrow you'll have the headline and you'll know precisely who that is, and you'll already have heard me discuss it here, or if you've already heard the headline, you're listening to the discussion, then you'll know the ambiguity will be gone, but you'll still hear my analysis in any event. So with that, let's talk about Iran. Biden administration Representative Rob Malley, who will be meeting with Iranian officials soon to talk about the Iran deal, has made a number of statements to the press lately that have Israel and several other countries deeply concerned about the administration's approach. Speaking on questions of sanctions ahead of the negotiations, I might add, and let me just say, if you've read The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump or any great negotiating book out there, there's some great books out there. But one of the things you don't do before you go into a negotiation is fold. You know, if you play poker, you know when you're about to place the first bet, right? You don't just fold. You got your cards, and now you're just going to fold before you even play. Wow. So from the way Rob Malley is talking, the way that this administration looks at the relationship with Iran is that Iran was, unicorns and magic and what have you. Iran was being absolutely wonderful in their compliance with the nuclear deal, and Donald Trump came in and just messed it all up. And because Donald Trump came in and messed it all up, now we're just going to have to get rid of all those sanctions Donald Trump put on there and just get everybody right back to the deal. We're not going to make it longer, harder, tougher, or anything of that nature. We're just going to go right back to the deal that we had before. Well, as I've discussed, we already have had headlines since then from the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, that they know the Iranians are not allowing them to inspect certain sites where they have detected radiation. So we already know that Iran never kept to the deal in the first place. They've also been developing ballistic missiles. Why would they be developing ballistic missiles? Let me see. If you're Iran and you're sort of kind of thinking about enriching uranium and creating a fissile material, and you're also developing ballistic missiles, what could you possibly want to use those for? Well, maybe delivering those nuclear warheads to, say, Britain or France. Well, that's what they're working on. So there never was an Iran deal to begin with. What there was an Iran sellout where the Obama administration gave away sanctions and gave money and gave basically regional leadership to Iran in exchange for Iran fighting Islamic State and the promise that the Iranians were going to play nice, I guess. Kind of reminds me of that Neville Chamberlain landing in the field in southern England and saying, I have a document that bears the signature of Adolf Hitler that there will be peace in our time. Well, we've seen what peace in our time looks like with Iran, and I'm not impressed. The administration is taking the position that is extremely weak. They're trying to make it sound like we are the problem, like the Iran deal fell apart because America didn't hold up its end of the bargain. Iran never held up its end of the bargain. Iran went into this deal, if you want to call it that, without any intention of following through on it. So this is the problem in this situation. Obviously, the Iranians are pretending to cave or pretending to blink, if you consider this a staring contest, in order to give the best press to America, to the Biden administration, in the hopes that they'll get the best deal. And with the Biden administration already talking about peeling off sanctions and such, it's like, we're playing a game of poker and I've already folded. Like, before we've even bet, before we've done anything, I got my cards and that's it. I'm out. I folded. I'm done. You win. Well, that's a heck of a way to start a negotiation. But this is the Biden doctrine. The Biden doctrine that you surrender before the fight. I guess that's what we have to look forward to for the next few years. So the next interesting story from the week, fascinating little spat, is the possibility that there was a coup in Jordan. We're not quite sure. Everything's kind of up in the air. Nobody's really wanting to talk about it, but sounds a lot like something happened there. The Hashemite kingdom is ruled by King Abdullah II, took over from his father a few years back, and he and the Jordanian kingdom have worked very hard to come back into the international community after his father sided with Saddam Hussein during the first Gulf War. And that really isolated Jordan and put Jordan in a very bad position in terms of economic circumstances. Obviously, Jordan doesn't have any oil. Every other country in the Middle East has oil, but not Jordan. Israel has oil and gas offshore for the most part, right? So even Israel has oil, but not Jordan. Wow. We're talking about being the most poorly situated country in the Middle East. In any case, Jordan has suffered quite a bit from that. And they've worked very hard to make peace with Israel in '96 and play the moderate pro-Western country since then, in the hopes of rekindling economic ties, improving trade relations, and kind of, let's say, erasing the prior king's error. There's been a very poorly kept secret in the royal family that Prince Hamza, who is the half-brother of King Abdullah, does not like this arrangement. That he is, let's just say, he feels the system is kind of corrupt or not perfect, or he doesn't like this kind of sell out to the West approach. However, it's not entirely clear whether he's pro-Islamist, pro-Iran. That's all been kind of kept quiet. But it's not been a very well-kept secret that Prince Hamza doesn't get on with King Abdullah. Well, he apparently sent messages to the military, blasting the king, putting the king on blast, I guess you could say. He has called the kingdom corrupt. He has called for constitutional reform, and he started making a lot of noise that sounded a lot like he was trying to push his brother out of power. All of a sudden, the Jordanian, well, I guess the Jordanians are acting like the Iranians now. So the Jordanian security forces went and started rounding up high-ranking officials thought to be sympathetic to Prince Hamza. And there's been some talk of Hamza possibly fleeing to another country. He said that he's made calls to international allies, although he has not clearly defined who those people might be or what his intentions are, or if he were to lead this coup, who he is leading this coup on behalf of. Now he's under house arrest, and all of a sudden, he's sworn his allegiance to King Abdullah. He's his best friend. He supports the Constitution and the policies in the country, and all is well. So, wow. The Hashemite kingdom has, since the Gulf War, really tried to paint itself as the stable Western ally, stable friend of the West. They are the moderate, pro-Western Muslim country in the Middle East, and they love everyone and have no ill will toward any party in the Middle East. Again, they've made peace with Israel, and they've done everything they can to put themselves in that position. This is the first sign of instability in that kingdom since 1965, since the Palestinians were prepared to revolt and overthrow the Hashemite kingdom. tipped off by the Israelis that there was such a movement on, the Jordanians, of course, responded. Now, the Israelis had no way to know how they were going to respond. The massacre of 10 to 30,000 Palestinian Arabs resulted. There are mass graves to this day that no one's ever looked at in Jordan. Of course, when Arabs kill other Arabs, that doesn't make the news. Nobody really cares about that. But Jordan has killed far more Arabs, far more Palestinians than have died in any of the conflicts between Israel and the Palestinian people, if such a people ever existed. In any case, it's more convenient just to refer to them as Palestinians, even though no such people really exists. But that's a story for another time. In any case, since 1965, Jordan has been relatively stable enough, for example, that they were able to make peace with Israel in 1996. But now there's some signs of internal chafing, of internal trouble. They're going to try to put a lid on this. Curiously, I just want to note for the region, when there are problems in Qatar or Bahrain or other countries in the Middle East, typically the local regional media fan the flames of it. It'll either be Al Jazeera taking some kind of an angle on what's going on in a pro-Islamist bent, or it'll be Al Arabiya or somebody will come up and just kick the story and up a notch and just try to escalate. In this case, the regional press has been relatively quiet. No one has really come to Prince Hamza's defense, and King Abdullah has got him under house arrest, and now he's kind of like, put a sock in it, and let's chill everything out. So is this going to be a story for the long term? I don't know, but it sure looks like a putsch was in effect, or there was an attempt at it, and it seems to have gone sideways for Prince Hamza. Quickly, before I go into Israeli politics et al., I will discuss a little corner of Israeli politics that's going on, and that is that one of the trials on Bibi's purported corruption charges is taking place now. The first hearing held today. After a short time, Bibi was allowed by the judge to leave, and there was some testimony taken from one of the witnesses. This trial is what's called Trial 4000, if you've been following those in detail. This is the Bezik case, where purportedly Bibi made a deal with the owners of Bezik to promote him and his family, positive stories about them and that kind of thing. And so there was an employee talking about how he was told to take down negative stories about Bibi from their website and to promote positive stories about Bibi and Bibi's family and what great people they were. There has been some positive coverage of Bibi and some negative. Generally speaking, the press in Israel is not very loving of Bibi. Obviously, the far-right media finds fault with him to the right. He's not right-wing enough. He's not doing enough to protect the country. And, oh, my God, he's a sellout. He's a traitor. He's a conspirator with the Arabs. And then on the left, he's everything evil in the world. Apparently, during the testimony, this employee for Bezik said that they had nicknamed Bibi Kim Jong-un. Tells you what some of the people in the media think of Bibi Netanyahu. It's kind of sickening, but in any case, supposedly, Bibi traded regulatory favors, giving favorable regulatory status, making regulatory changes that benefited Bezik, and as a result, he was given more positive coverage by Bezik. If this is a crime here, if there, in terms of the law, technically speaking, if you are a public official, and this is kind of a general law, I'm not going to go into specific different places, but if there is a quid pro quo, if I am the president and you are the head of a major media company and we sit down and I say, I will do this, this, and this for you if you also do this, this, and this for me, that is illegal, right? You cannot do favors, use the public sector, the bureaucracy, the regulatory authorities for the benefit of your friends, you personally or for your friends, granted. However, in the political world, these kinds of deals are never spoken that way. Nobody ever really comes right out and says it. having worked around Sacramento and California in the state legislature and that kind of thing, nobody walks into a senator's office and says, I'll give you $10,000 if you do this thing for me. It just doesn't work that way. There's a political language for this. Generally, they come in and they ask, hey, we've got this problem. Will you help us with it? And based on how the votes go or whether certain bills were killed in committee or what have you, when it comes time to give political donations, those people are generally just very favorable. Hey, Senator so-and-so opposed this bill, killed it in committee for us. And curiously, when that senator runs for re-election, $10,000 appears in a fund, now that we have campaign finance controls, of course, some fund, some, independent group that's attacking his opponent or promoting that senator, him or her, I guess I could say. In any case, these things usually aren't spelled out. So the witnesses, they've had a couple witnesses that purported to have overheard or been familiar with this quid pro quo. A couple of them have recanted. It's not entirely clear that they have solid evidence that that was the case. It's entirely possible that Bibi just wanted to promote this large business. Bezik has had some financial troubles in Israel, and maybe he was trying to help them. Who knows? In any case, if the people who run Bezik, of course, wanted to be more positive about Bibi because he'd been helpful to them, that's not a quid pro quo. They have to be able to prove there was a direct intent for him to have some kind of personal benefit or political benefit in exchange for doing something in the public sector that benefited them. We'll see. But in any case, that trial has begun, and it is curious that since Bibi is sitting prime minister and is under, he's had a trial going on for corruption, he's finally facing those charges and dealing with those things. The argument from the other side has been that he needs to leave office in order to do that, although people work full-time and face charges all the time. It's not uncommon for a person to make their court appearances and then go back to work. That's life. So it's not clear why that requires him to step down. These charges may completely fail to convict. If they fail to convict him, then that would be political interference, really, using the argument that there are charges pending if those charges are malicious or unfounded, or if those charges do not stick, if he's not convicted. So, again, we'll see what happens. That process has begun. It began today auspiciously, just before the president announces who will have the first go at forming a coalition, and we'll see how the political fallout from that impacts the coalition building process. So with that, when I'm back from the break, we'll discuss the political situation a little more in depth and where we stand with the coalition talks. As I've described before, the beginning of the coalition building process, the first step is that the party's leaders, the leaders of the various parties, meet with the president and they recommend a candidate for prime minister. Now, these meetings of the president are a formality and that kind of thing. The president of Israel, of course, doesn't have the kind of power, political power of the U.S., kind of a figurehead office, head of state, ceremonial office, let's just say, kind of like the Queen of England. Although the Queen of England on paper has a lot of power, the president of Israel on paper has very little. And the president is supposed to remain above politics, as I'll discuss in a little bit some of what that means. Nevertheless, these parties met with the president and they have made their recommendations. And there are a couple of surprises, but let's just say the ones that I discussed were not among them. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. How did Joint List vote? Joint List voted not to recommend any candidate. Are you surprised? I'm not surprised. Why? Because I listened to Inside Israel News, and what did I hear on Inside Israel News but that Joint List wasn't going to recommend a candidate in all likelihood, and there would be a real surprise if they did. Ergo, my prior comment that, once again, I just have to repeat it, it was disingenuous for the media to include Joint List in the anti-Bibi, among the anti-Bibi parties when discussing election results. Okay, now that I've covered that for the umpteenth time, you have to forgive me. These kinds of media stories they really bug me. They really do. The media situation, as I just described, like the charges against Bibi, could you imagine if that kind of thing were prosecuted here in the United States, these sleight of hand things? I mean, most of our media professionals and half of our elected leaders would all be going to prison because there's so much collusion between the media and to the benefit of these political individuals here. So anyway, that's all just a mess. And so you'll have to forgive my frustration, but I want to vent it because I know many of you share it. It is really important to me here, and I obviously have my own biases and I try to claim them, that I tell you what I believe to be true. Not what I hope is true, but what I believe is true. And it boggles my mind that here I go to such an effort to try to do that as best I can. And the media in Israel and international media will just outright lie. Just blatantly, they know exactly what I know. They're not stupid, right? They know what I know, and yet they're going to go out there and lie to you anyway. Well, I'm not going to lie to you. It doesn't mean that I'm always right, and it doesn't mean that I'm always completely and entirely unbiased, but at least I try. So, on with the political commentary, as true as I understand it in any event. Okay, so the other surprise was that New Hope, the New Hope party led by Gideon Sa'ar, who's been a candidate against Bibi Netanyahu, did not recommend a candidate either. So the parties that did not recommend a candidate were New Hope, the right-wing party made up of people who split from Likud because they oppose Bibi, led by Gideon Sa'ar, the Joint List party, which is 3.5 Arab parties that sit together in they all run together, kind of dole out their seats to one another ahead of time and then run as a single party, or rather a single list of parties on the ballot. And Ra'am, which is led by Mansour Abbas, is the other Arab party. So that Ra'am and Joint List didn't vote for anyone is not a surprise. Mansour Abbas is likely to sit this process out for a while, wait and see what develops. And if an opportunity presents itself to him to join a coalition last minute and be a kingmaker and thus be able to get a maximum of concessions to benefit himself personally, obviously. Nobody is altruistic in this process, but also the Arab community in Israel, then that will be the case. In recent speech he made about that, his failure to reference the Palestinians or call Israeli Arabs or Arab Israelis Palestinians got a few people upset, apparently. But the fact is, his speech said that he was open-minded to joining a coalition if it would benefit Arab Israelis, and that is where he's going to stand. So New Hope did not vote for a candidate because they're in the middle of negotiations with Yesh Atid, led by Yair Lapid, who is one of the candidates for prime minister, and they have not yet made a deal with him. And so, unable to reach a deal with him, they have decided not to recommend anyone. Wait a minute. That's kind of funny. That's like not showing your hand or folding when you're playing poker. You kind of hold your cards close to your vest until you know how everything's kind of shaken out. Who's going to fold and who's going to hold and how far the game is going to go. That's a funny thing. You'd almost think that that's a smart negotiating tactic. Anyway, deep breath. So now we have the two groups that have recommended one or the other. So those recommending Bibi Netanyahu were, in no particular order, Likud, Shas, United Torah Judaism, and Religious Zionism, the Religious Zionist Party, all told 52 seats, same as the election results, so I won't go into the numbers there. So the 52 seats of the parties that are most closely associated with Bibi, his natural coalition, have recommended him. Yair Lapid was recommended by 45 MKs, members of Knesset, because, of course, the 6 members from New Hope, Gideon Sa'ar's party, did not recommend him. And if they had, they would still have had 51 seats, and they'd still have been beneath Bibi. So it really did make a big difference in the grand scheme of things. Thus, obviously, Gideon Sa'ar is going to continue his tough negotiations, playing hardball and try to get himself a good deal arranged with Yair Lapid in that regard. And Naftali Bennett's Yamina party, all 7 of them voted for, you guessed it, Naftali Bennett to be prime minister. Kind of an interesting position. If you go back to one of the supplements I made discussing the possibility of Naftali Bennett as prime minister, one of the things we didn't know at that point, one of the things that hadn't quite come out there was that polls have consistently shown, and there were some polls that came in after that, have consistently shown that Naftali Bennett is the second most popular political figure in Israel. So, again, here he is with 7 seats, and of course, if he'd had, like Yair Lapid, 16 seats or 15 seats or something in that, that neighborhood, he might have had a really good shot at being prime minister. However, democracy is not all about these numbers. The fact is, of all the people who are candidates for prime minister, he is the most popular after Bibi. And that means that if they're going to form a coalition, there is talk now, as the next topic here, talk now of a rotation between Bennett and Lapid. Everyone is competing over Yair Lapid. And I'm sure Yair Lapid, everyone's competing over Naftali Bennett, Yair Lapid included, Bibi as well. Everyone wants Bennett in their coalition, and that puts Bennett in the best position. So obviously, Naftali Bennett is feeling pretty good right now. He's riding high. He can make or break some things. He is not the kingmaker, however, because even if Yair Lapid can pull together all of the anti-Bibi parties that are likely to join a coalition, ergo not including joint list, right, you have 51 seats. Well, with Naftali Bennett having 7 members, he can only take them up to 58. So they will still be 2 seats shy of the majority. And 3 seats. 3 seats shy of the 61-seat majority. They'll be 2 seats shy of half. They'll be 3 seats shy of the majority to form a coalition. And so they're still going to need another party, which, puts then, if they get that far, Mansour Abbas is sitting out there with 4 seats, and maybe he'll be there. In any case, who's going to go first? So President Rivlin, Ruby Rivlin, his name is Reuven, and as I've discussed before, nobody in Israel is called by their name. There's always some clever nickname. You're Ruby or Bibi or something like this. Itzy something. You have some kind of clever nickname. And this is Ruby Rivlin's choice here, but there are limits. So, for example, when party members representing Gideon Sa'ar met with the president, they asked the president to give the current discussion group, let's just say the anti-Bibi coalition, Lapid, Bennett, the first go at forming a coalition, because even though they weren't recommending anyone, they believed that they would soon be in that camp. And the president pointed out that could be seen as political meddling. And he really is sort of a slave in the political situation to who has the most recommendations, the recommendation of the most seats in parliament. And at the moment, that is Bibi Netanyahu. However, the president also noted that Bibi is facing charges and now under trial, and he'll be considering that in his decision as well. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. However, looking at the numbers, again, even if New Hope had recommended the Yair Lapid candidacy or the Bennett Lapid candidacy, even if all of Bennett's votes had been in there, we would still be several seats shy of an outright majority, even though that would be more seats than Bibi Netanyahu. So it's not clear what's going to happen there. All right, the big discussion point, Lapid and Bennett are talking, and Lapid apparently is talking about a rotation with Bennett. And the talk now is that it's possible Bennett may go first. Even though Israel is a multi-party proportional parliamentary system, and thus individual candidates for prime minister do not run against each other head-to-head, although that has happened before. I have to discuss that in a supplement sometime. In any case, the fact is that the polls matter. And when you poll the situation, you find that if you ask everyone who should be prime minister, obviously Bibi comes in first, but the next person is Bennett. And if you take Bibi out of the equation and say, well, who should be prime minister if Bibi is not an option, Bennett is the one who gets the highest marks. And so when you put all that calculation together, and maybe you're Yair Lapid, you say, hey, if Naftali Bennett goes first in rotation for 2 years, and then I go next, or maybe 1 year, depending on how long they plan to run this coalition, then that is the best situation for everyone, because that would be the next popular prime minister. So, Bennett has a good shot at being prime minister, something I discussed in a supplement even back during the election, the possibility that this could be a reality, that this could happen. And so, I won't say you heard it here first, but it was discussed here quite a while back. Anyway, we have these talks underway at the moment, and it looks like there's a good chance that Lapid and Bennett will come to some kind of agreement. Gideon Sa'ar wants to get in there as well. He's also fairly popular. Yair Lapid is the least popular of the four men who are being considered for prime minister. Yet he's obviously the most popular on the left, being, the center-left populist candidate. So obviously and having the largest party in this prospective coalition, the second largest party in the Knesset, he would be in a prominent position to hold the office of prime minister. But he is far from the most personally popular. So it'd be interesting to see how that might play out. So if they're able to put that grouping together, again, they get 58 seats. They're very close to a majority. Then it would just be a question of coaxing someone else into the coalition. Following their meetings with President Rivlin, a number of party leaders gave comments to the press, and one of them, journalist for Channel 2 and leader of the Meretz party, Nitzan Horowitz, gave an interesting commentary about how the coalition would be put together of center-right, center-left, and hard-right parties, but mentioned that religious Zionists would not be among them. Well, if religious Zionists, and he also said Likud, of course. So if Likud and religious Zionists are not to be part of their coalition, and the Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox parties, both the Sephardic and Ashkenazic parties, are likely to remain loyal to Bibi, that means that the subtle hint there, I want to say, the other side of the coin from his comment is that they're talking to the Arabs. So they're thinking maybe if they get everybody together into their coalition, and there they've got Bennett and Lapid and Sa'ar and all of them, then they might bring in Ra'am and form a coalition with them, which would put them at 62, one more than the necessary majority, and give them the government. Of course, in order to get there, they have to have the shot at forming the government, and it's not entirely clear whether President Ruby Rivlin will give that to them. He will make that determination tomorrow, and in all likelihood, he is probably going to tap Bibi to go first. If anything, tapping Bibi to go first does a couple of things. If Bibi is able to put a coalition together, obviously that ends this political crisis for as long as that coalition lasts. But if he is unable to form a coalition, it gets him out of the way. There's no returning to Bibi. So if, let's say, Lapid and Bennett were to go first in trying to form a coalition and say that they failed, then there would be a chance to give Bibi a go at forming a coalition, and he could do that afterward. If Bibi goes first and is unable to form a coalition, and Lapid Bennett are given an opportunity to form it after him, then they know the failure to form a coalition means a new election. And of course, the likelihood of any kind of unity coalition here, in quotation marks, of some kind of left-right, some breakdown of the anti-Bibi, pro-Bibi blocs to form a coalition is very, very unlikely. Everyone in the anti-Bibi bloc, from Gideon Sa'ar to Yair Lapid and Labor and everyone, they've all taken a stand against Bibi Netanyahu personally, and many of them have political grievances with Likud as well. So the chances of that happening are fairly low. So if Bibi is given the first go, if he is able to find a way maybe to form a coalition, that'd be a good thing. Obviously, a good thing in the sense that it'd be good for him in forming a coalition. Not venturing an opinion there. I just mean from his perspective, it would be good that he would be able to form a coalition. And he'll be happy that he was able to do that. Obviously, while that's happening, it also puts Bennett in a very strong negotiating position with Lapid, because those negotiations can be ongoing while Bibi has the first go at forming a coalition. And as I discussed in the supplement, he can, of course, kind of have it both ways. He can play both sides against the middle, saying, hey, I'm also talking to Bibi. He's offering me X, Y, and Z. What are you offering me that works? And obviously, Lapid's main thing, obviously they're talking about a rotation. So, the big thing that Naftali Bennett would get here, the big prize that would coax him away from Bibi is the big office. He's going to be prime minister for 1 or 2 years, whatever the agreement is. And that's big. That puts him in a new class, let's just say, in terms of leadership and political opportunity. However, for Bennett, even if he goes in that direction, the prospect that Lapid will be able to form a coalition is still a little bit shaky, right? Because they get up to 58, but they can't quite form a majority. So that'll be interesting there. Is there something Bibi can do to get Bennett to his side? I don't know. Bibi has offered Bennett a rotation before. He has already ruled out rotation during the election. He said he would not do a rotation if he's elected prime minister. He's under trial now. I mean, he's actually going to court now. We'll see. This is definitely crunch time. But it's hard to imagine that Bibi has a better prize to offer Bennett. However, I think Bennett and his constituents would certainly be in the best political situation if he extracted the best concessions he could get out of Bibi and then put Bibi's 52 seats up to 59. And then they're just 2 seats from a majority. Would Ra'am fill out that majority? We don't know, because at that point then, at this juncture, Ra'am seems to be the kingmaker between both of them. And if they do not join a coalition, or if those forming a coalition rule out bringing Arab parties into the coalition, it will mean a new election. How is this going to go? Tune in next week and we'll find out. I'll try to record a supplement once we know who's been pegged to have the first go at forming a coalition. And once that name is known, and discuss that just a little bit in brief. And then next week we'll see how the different negotiations and the meandering of Israeli politics has gone. So with that, I will say goodbye, להתראות.
אולי נפליגה בספינות מחוף אילת עד חוף שער, ועל המשחטות הישנות יטעינו תפוחי זהב.